Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Anna Ayubiojo. I'm so excited you're here. So I am late with today's video. I really want to be consistent about having Friday chats, whatever God drops in my spirit, and really just really being consistent with just uploading on Fridays. And if you don't know, if you haven't listened to the Community Well podcast in season 5, I just talked about really a season that I just went through where I kind of set everything down that God had given me. So now I'm getting back on track with things. So I'm really focused on consistency and showing up and becoming who God has called me to be. And in the process of becoming, those are some things that, you know, we have to get back to being consistent no matter how you feel, to be disciplined and do the things you said you're going to do, even when the feeling has left or whatever. Um, Today was a long day. I'm like super exhausted, but in a good way. Like God is doing so many great things. Um, I had the gym drop off work last night. Um, I had the opportunity to go to sort of this wellness appointment where I got to go in a sauna for an hour. And it was like nice because it was like a private suite and I was watching TV and it was nice. Then I had a vitamin C shower. Okay. It was everything. And then I got to go into a hydro bed massage and they had like this little mask situation. I can't remember what it's called, but like the different lights. There's one for acne, one for wrinkles, the other one is I forgot what that one was for. I use the one for acne because I don't know why I'm breaking out like I'm some teenager. Well, I do know it's because I'm working nights and the stress and the lack of consistency. Because when you work at night, there is no amount of routine, and there's just nah. It's just a thing. Um, but yes, I got to do that for about like an hour and a half of just me, myself, and I, which I needed because especially this weekend is so jam-packed. After that, I rushed to get the baby and to go get her dressed for father-daughter dance tomorrow, which is so exciting. Um, and then I was running around getting groceries because the boys invited their friends. So we had originally it was supposed to be like 13, some of them canceled, so they couldn't make it. Um, but just making them like pasta and getting pizza and a bunch of snacks. There's a bunch of teenagers and a few tweens, a bunch of boys that just want to eat. So hosting them tonight, um, and doing Gigi's hair for tomorrow, and then we have a basketball tournament tomorrow. And in this season, especially for leaders, you'll understand is that when you've been called to do a lot, you will be stretched. You'll be stretched and you need to lean into the stretching. And I think that, you know, um, sometimes we probably ask God to remove it, to take it away. And I was on the live with the prayer list of You Don't Fall. I've been talking about her a lot in her program right now. And the stretching is real. Yeah, the stretching is real. So I was on her live and they were talking about like being a multifaceted leader and just um wearing different hats and things like that. And so this weekend especially, I'm getting really tapped in and tuned in onto the fact that, I am a multifaceted leader, which means that comes with a lot of responsibilities. And sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I wanted in the past to put some stuff down. And yeah, I mean, when my mom passed, I put everything down and I was like, that ain't it. So I don't have a choice. I just have to do the things that God has called me to, on top of all the other things. So it's just been a lot. I guess that's my little rant on like all the things that are happening and why I'm late with today's video. I just really wanted to share. This is just a long day and I'm determined to be consistent no matter what. But I mean, with that though, today I wanted to talk about like burnout and that deep exhaustion and how that impacts your ability to hear God. And so I think it's important to talk about burnout in terms of burnout, but also like in a physical sense, but also in a spiritual sense. Because I remember being burnt out in a spiritual sense where you were kind of like, you don't have your hope in the right thing, and you have your hope more on the promises of God than on the promise keeper. And I did a few videos back. It was a whole series. I think I did 30, did I do 30 videos? There were a few videos of being focused on the promise keeper, because when we focus on just the promise and the things that God has promised us and the things that we want to see, you kind of exert yourself and you do things, sometimes even just obey God in order to get the thing, right? And so you're not focusing on having a relationship with God, you're focusing on his hand and what he's going to give you. And that eventually makes your heart harden and your heart get cold, you know? So it's important, like, are you spiritually burnt out and you're doing all the things for God and you're praying and doing all the things, but your heart isn't right. And it's possible to do all the Christian things and not feel like your heart is right, because when your relationship and you're shifted in that area, it's not going to be on the right foundation. So are you spiritually burnt out? Are you physically burnt out? You could definitely be both. But when you're physically burnt out by like work and all these different things, it's really get irritable. The things that used to bring you pleasure don't bring you pleasure, but in a different way than if you were depressed. Um, because you still have somewhat of an energy to do it. You just rather not, and you're annoyed by things, and um, you know, deep exhaustion that no matter how much you sleep, no matter how much you rest, you just don't feel rested and you feel restless. Um, you know, I'm trying to think about the distinct differences between burnout and depression would be um I think when there's a heaviness with depression that you're not able to do anything. Because with burnout, you can at least push yourself. It's just like you can't exert anything. You feel like you have nothing left, but you're able to gather it from somewhere. With depression, unless you're high functioning, of course, um, you're like, I don't have it. Um, and there's more in detail. Um, but really, when you're either when you're burnt out, depressed, or even when you're stressed and anxious and all the things, it's hard for you to really hear the voice of God and to even believe and have faith that you do. I remember when, I struggled with severe PTSD, severe depression, and PTSD, and God healed me, he delivered me, and it was such a like I can't even imagine like being in that place, but I couldn't hear God because it was like jumbled, by the symptoms of this thing. And so that's why it's so important when we talk about mental health and spiritual health, because you can't hear the voice of God. You get confused, and the enemy uses that against you to jumble the connection to God. Like God is always speaking, God is always there, but you can't hear it because you're so focused, and it's valid, on the thing, on the symptoms, like with severe depression or PTSD, having flashbacks. There's no way that I'm like, okay, I can't hear you, God, and I can't see any visions because I'm just having flashbacks of this abuse that I experienced, or having flashbacks of, my childhood or whatever it is. And so it's imperative, you know, that if your mental health is impacting you so badly that it impacts your ability to move on a daily basis, like go about your day, definitely seek support, go to therapy. Definitely. Like no questions asked. But also, if you don't have a diagnosis, being sure to take care of yourself. Like I went on this wellness um date this morning with myself, and just having time to be by myself, with myself, for myself, to gather myself, center myself, and ground myself so that the voices can be brought down. Because when you're exhausted, there are a lot of different voices. I can't do this. I'm so tired. In that place of complaining, that's like fertile ground for the enemy to be like, yeah, I got you. When you're exhausted, it's easy for the enemy to come. And right now is such a heavy season of distraction that that's the way the enemy's going to get us is with distraction. And so it's important that in this season, you don't allow yourself to grow weary spiritually, that you don't allow your body to get so physically tired and your mind to get so physically tired that um, you're not in alignment with God because you're either too far behind or you're too far ahead because you're just so exhausted that you could be so exhausted you're just going, 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 and you're like, what just happened? Like, I don't, where am I going? What am I doing? You didn't stop to check with God. Or you're so exhausted that you're like, I'm just gonna stay here and rest, and you've been resting for a really long time, and it's okay to rest, but I think sometimes we sit there for too long. And um I heard that yesterday, just sit there for too long and you should have been moving, then you just grow lazy. You just grow lazy. And so it's just so important to take the time to heal. Um, don't rush whatever process God has you in right now. Like even trying to rush and trying to strive so much. I was actually talking to my husband about that. Very transparent and very vulnerable moment right now. But I have a tendency to just strive, strive, strive. Um, I either grow too comfortable, which is crazy. I either grow too comfortable where I'm at because I've accomplished a lot for a girl that grew up in the hood, first to go to school, first generation, to get my master's, buy a house, car, and all the things, and doing things right, and whatever. Um, I've accomplished a lot, and so I can either grow comfortable here, um, or have this other part of me that just strive, 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 and just getting so overly exhausted with becoming and doing as opposed to just being, you know, being. When we're practicing mindfulness and practicing just being, there's so much power in that can lower stress and can lower anxiety. And so I guess I just want to encourage y'all to assess your mental health. How am I feeling? How am I doing? What am I doing in this season? And what are some things that I can stop doing? How can I decrease anxiety, stress, and focus on my mental health better and focus on my mental health more so that I'm able to hear God? Improve your mental health so you can hear God, so that you can make space for God to speak to you. Because some of us our schedules are so cluttered that you don't have time to sit down with yourself. Even while you're listening to this, you're probably multitasking and doing something else because you're always doing something. And maybe it's just time to just be. Maybe just be in this season so that you're able to hear God a little clearer. I know it's a short one, but I hope it was helpful. I'll definitely be back next week with another video. And I hope you all have just the best day, the best weekend, or the best week, depending on when you're listening. I love you all so much. I'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.